everyone. Welcome to another edition of Let's Talk Marketing podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Webster, and I'm excited to chop it up with you today. Today's episode, for episode 81, I want to get into something a little bit more granular for small business owners that don't have a lot of money to spend for marketing. I'm calling it how to ad spend on a small budget, right? We have limited resources as small businesses, as startups, as just even solopreneurs, solo entrepreneurs or sole proprietors, however you want to look at it. And for those watching, for those that have been listening, for all my worldwide listeners that have been rocking with me, in case that you don't know, we are recording this again on our video. So go to YouTube, check it out. We'll have a link down below so you can go watch this if you want to go watch it. If you haven't already subscribed, please do subscribe to the channel. And also, if this is your first time listening, congratulations, you made it to the Let's Talk Marketing podcast. I'm glad you can make it here today. This show is for anyone that wants to learn about the basics of marketing. Sometimes we go deeper into the granular things of marketing. Started off doing social entrepreneurship because I have a nonprofit, did have a nonprofit, stopped, then I have another one. But I really learned how to leverage my skill sets in marketing within the nonprofit arena, then evolve, voila, our marketing agency, Marketing Angels. We could be angels in some respects, but our marketing agency, NW and Associates, that stands for Nathan Webster and Associates. If you want to learn more, go to nwbrand.com to learn more about who we are. We just released a brand new website and we're still doing some tweaking on it, so I'm so excited to see the final outcome here in a few months. Back to the situation at hand. All right, here we go. How to allocate. Okay, because I want to use words wisely here. How do we allocate? Which we're going to put some money aside, and I get it, there's not a lot of money to put aside, but we're going to allocate, right? In regards of allocating ad spend, one of the first things you got to do is says, or I should say, what you need to say and your team needs to say, we cannot not put an ad out. You should always put an ad out. And there's three takeaways. And the number one that I'm going to tell you to do is don't get sucked into the Facebook boost. Now, I already did a podcast on this to do not Facebook boost any post, because if you are, you're just sending money to Hacker Lane Drive or whatever Facebook, now Meta, as an address now. You're just sending a check to them. There's so many different algorithms that you need to consider, and when they're telling you to boost, they're just saying, hey, look, we're gonna get this sent out to more people so you can get more engagement, but that does not necessarily mean it's gonna give you the best ROI for what you want. So when you are allocating, and I was initially gonna say investing, but we'll come to that later, but when you are allocating a small amount of funds, first and foremost, you need to ensure that there is strategy behind it, not tactics. A tactic is a Facebook boost, okay? So don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. You don't want to do that because there needs to be strategy behind it. The strategy is where basically it's never stopping. Your strategy is 365 days, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, and every second matters. So your strategy is never done. It doesn't have a Christmas break, a spring break, a summer break. It doesn't take weekends off. It's always on. Tactics are. They are for something specific. There are seasonalities to every industry, and that's something a lot different, a lot granular. We're not going that deep because you also have a small budget, but this is for a larger campaign, which is a totally different topic as well. But an ad is a start to a small budget that you should be thinking about, which is why you should always invest in ads, right? But you need to first allocate money for ads, and that's what we start with. So when the small businesses come to me and say, Nathan, I want to get my message out there. I want to get this product out there. We have this event, or we're doing this, or we're doing that, and we need some help. Can you help us? And one of the first things I say, well, what's your ROI? Well, you might say, well, what's the ROI? ROI is a return on investment. If you don't have an ROI for your marketing, and if you just say printing out flyers, well, there's a cost behind that, right? You have to consider the cost, hopefully, will be smaller. Will it be smaller, hopefully, or will it be more than the profit? Hopefully, it's going to be smaller than the profit, which means it should be less. The expenses should be less than the profit, and the profit should outweigh the expenses. That's our ROI. Your profits come first, then your expenses come last, but you will have to pay your expense first and wait on the profit. And hopefully you're anxiously waiting on the good, because you have really thought this through. So when people come to me and say, Nathan, I need some help getting my brand, my name out there, absolutely. I have a team full of great colleagues that can help me do this, but we need to sit down. I need to talk to you. My team members need to talk to you and figure out, what does that look like? What are those assets you have? What are the assets you are going to create? So one of the first things you do is get rid of the mentality. Going back to number one, do not boost any posts on social media, because that is not part of your strategy. Now, there are reasons to Facebook boost something, but that should not be in your strategy. Number two, the way we go about it, as you're figuring this out for yourself, if you think of the revenue that you have, put aside at least a bare minimum of 5%. The goal here would be 10%. Larger companies spend anywhere from 20 to 30%, because then maybe the next or line item for an expense is personnel. So when it comes to how much money you spend in marketing, it should be, for small businesses, you should be allocating 10%, and that's the investment, to where you're getting back anywhere, hopefully, to 15, 20%. And this is depending on what you're selling, because 10% for a restaurant is different than an architect. 10% from an architect is different from 10% from a construction company. So here's where you have to know your costs. You have to know the raw good material costs. And this starts with the number one thing people mess up on is your time. Your time is far more valuable. And this comes back to, I get that we get going and going and going and going and going and going, but we don't think about how much time have already invested, and now we're allocating to this specific task for that contract, right? Sometimes you just say, like, yeah, I just want to do the work, and if, say, I'm baking cookies and I'm giving you a dozen cookies, and the cookies cost probably, let's say, $1.50 to $2 to make with all of my materials, and I'm selling it to you for $5. That might work, that might not work. You might, because you're comparing it to like the cookies in the store, in the supermarket, but they're selling hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars of cookies in the store, so they can charge lower prices. You might not be able to charge a lower price, but I can't stress it enough. The time piece is one of the things that most small businesses just don't consider, and that is one of the reasons why, unfortunately, they go out of business. So when it comes to setting aside 10% of your revenue, that should be embedded into your already projected forecasted expenses, because here's where you're gonna have to get your name out there. So think of it this way, and this is, pre-COVID. I know this is COVID, but pre-COVID, think about the time it takes for you to go network with maybe a chamber, maybe a local business association, alliance, or maybe someone at the company saying, hey, look, we're doing a quick networking party of 30 people. You drive there, right? Let's just say it takes 30 minutes. You're there for an hour, maybe 2 hours. You come back another half hour. Let's just say at the bare minimum, it's 2.5 hours you spent. Let's say you are at a $25 rate pay. So you spend 3 hours, 3 times 25 is what? $75, right? That amount of time, not including gas, I'm just saying for your time, not including gas, so let's just say we round up $5 to 80 for gas for mileage, right? Not including anything you paid for, right? But let's just keep it super simple. For 3 hours, it was $80. Now, what if you spent, instead of your time and money in regards to the $80 for that networking event, what if you spent 30, or excuse me, I said 830, I meant 80. What if you spent $80 in Google ads? What if you spent that in Facebook ads? What if you spent that in LinkedIn ads? What if you spent that in Bing ads? What if you spent that in Yahoo ads? There's different places where you could have spent that $80, which was 3 hours worth of your time and gas money there. And guess what? You didn't reach not just 30 people in that time. For that $80, you probably can reach 3,000 people. So what's more important? You have to figure that out for yourself, but this is coming back to how much money you're allocating for your ad spend. And you can say, well, Nathan, ad spend is, I don't know if I'm ready for it. You may not be, but I can promise you for number 3, if you do not create an ROI for your ad, then you're probably not creating an ROI for your business. So what is the return on your business? And this is a larger question in context of not just your marketing strategy, but what is your business strategy? What is your vision, period, in regards to how do you take the profits, right? The profits from your business that goes back into your operations. Does that give you the return you need for your ops to pay for like the internet, the computer, whatever it is? But does it also put money back into your ads, right? Because maybe that was one of the reasons, if you've done your homework and you collected the data correctly, you found out one of the reasons why they decided to go with you was because an ad they potentially saw. Or maybe it was some digital exposure they have from maybe your social media account. It could have been maybe your digital artwork on Google My Business. We don't know if you don't collect it. That's another reason why when you put out an ad, you think about those channels, and could be part of your campaign. You're gonna put out different fillers, and you wanna know, how did you hear about us? You've probably seen that time to time before on certain, say, surveys or questionnaires, or even maybe a waitress coming to you. How did you hear about us, right? That's one of the key primary feedback questions that we ask to ensure what we're doing marketing wise is working. So number 1, please do not Facebook boost anything. Okay, do not do that. That's a rabbit hole in itself. Plus, I already talked to you about that. Number 2, set aside 10% of your revenue, because you have already invested so much money into other things, because you're probably lean and you want to stay lean and keep as much in the bank account as you possibly can. Allocate 5 to 10% if you're working with a small budget. And what that means, that includes design work, that includes a consultant, that includes all the other things that come with it. And number 3, at the end of it, you should say, if I'm gonna spend $250 on ads, you are looking to get $500. Always double that. But with that, put a time frame on it. Now, this is very high level, generic speaking in regards to ad spend. Again, your industry will dictate, your avatar will dictate, your geographic location will dictate, and your customer's budget will dictate. Okay, so this is why it's very important to make sure you price things correctly. Coming back to the 4 P's of marketing, when your product or service, right, is priced, number 2, priced correctly, and number 3, they found it in the right channel. That I would say place. I know it's not the same thing as channel in regards to like place, channel, but in the areas of distribution. To last but not least is promotion. You were able to get all that out there bundled up nice and pretty to where you're like, cha-ching, yes, my value proposition worked, and people are getting what they need and what they want because I put something out there, and you're like, yes, that's how you do it. So that's why it's so important to start figuring out, what does your ad spend look like now, not later. Don't wait for the later, just like don't wait for that perfect moment. You make the moment perfect. So don't believe that you have to have it all dialed in correctly, because we are learning as we're going, which is why there's A and B testing, which is why there's several iterations. This is why you gotta be flexible, because when it comes to any part of your marketing strategy, it will always evolve. Remember the definition of marketing that I created? It is an untamed beast that never sleeps, which means it's always hungry. You know, when you pull an all-nighter, you're always hungry because your body is feeding or wanting those carbs, right? Well, this marketing beast, it never sleeps. So it's always consuming something. So make sure you put something out there to where your potential consumers, even existing customer or client, can say, oh yeah, I know that agency, I know that restaurant, I know that company, I know that business owner. Oh yeah, that's why I rock with them. That's why I love them. That's why it's important for ads, because selling is helping. Thank you for listening, and I hope this has been very helpful in regards to hoping you can create that. If you want something more, if you need something more, please reach out to me. You can email me directly at info@nwebster well, I already said that. It's at info@nwebsterllc.com. Did I say that? I'm gonna say that one more time because I think I messed it up. Email me at info@nwebsterllc.com. info@nwebsterllc.com. If you are not quite sure, if you want to check some of our other episodes out on our podcast, please do so. They're free of charge. Go do that. You can check them out on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Audible, which is super cool. You can do all this, and of course, Apple, iTunes. But if you feel like I need to read a little bit more, so be it. There's a ton of information out there. Don't feel that you have to do this alone, nor should you, because eventually at some point in time, you're gonna need help. And if it's not me, find someone to help you with this, because it is a beast of any sort of energy, any sort of time, any sort of resources, of all your assets. It takes a lot, because what happens is people think they can do this on their own, and it's outside their value proposition, and then they're getting pulled this way. They're like, I don't know. Don't be that way, okay? Get someone to help you with this. And for those that want some of this swag, for those that can't see it, yo, you have to go to ndublove.com to get some of the swag. Yo, doesn't the swag look bomb? Like, for real. Make sure you go to ndublove.com, which is also our podcast sponsor. I want to say thank you for all of those that have rocked the BU gear. What's up? You know, I appreciate that, because at the end of the day, what I love about marketing is I'm helping my clients be unapologetically them. So with that, I wish you nothing but the best. So dream big and Godspeed.